Hi, coolest egg back. Uh, I love that name. Anyway, so, I've been absent for a while, but I have had no idea what to upload. I've had weird dreams, but like not really weird enough to talk about. So, I am instead going to read. If you hear anything in the background, that's my cat. He's not wanting to behave right now, and so yeah, I decided to instead read some of the stories from my H.P. Lovecraft book. Very excited about. Already got the story. I haven't read this one, so if I mess up, I haven't read this before, and I'm bad at talking. I'm also recording this on my new computer. Yay, computer now. It's cool. It's purple. It's great. Alright. This story is titled The Hound. In my tortured ears, there sounds unceasingly a nightmare, whirring and flapping and faint distant bang, as of some gigantic hound. It is not dream, it is not, I fear, even madness, for too much has already happened to give me these merciful deaths. St. John's a mangled corpse, I alone know why. And such is my knowledge that I am about to blow out my brains, for I fear I shall be mangled in the same way. Down, unlit and illimitable corridors of eldritch fantasy glide in the same way, as not fantasy sweeps the black, shapeless nemesis that drives me to self-annihilation. May heaven forgive the folly and morbidity which led us both to so monstrous a fate. Wearied with the commonplace of a prosaic world, where even the joys of romance and adventure soon grow stale, St. John and I had followed enthusiastically every aesthetic and intellectual movement which promised respite from our devastating ennui. The enigmas of my symbolists and the ecstasies of pre-Raphaelites all were ours in their time, but each new mood was drained too soon of its diverting novelty and appeal. Only the somber philosophy of the decadents told us, and this we found potent only by increasing gradually the depth and diabolism of our penetrations. Baudelaire and Huysmans were soon exhausted of thrills, till finally there remained for us only the more direct stimuli of unnatural personal experiences and adventures. It was this frightful emotional need which led us eventually to that detestable course, which even in my present fear I mention with shame and timidity, that hideous extremity of human outrage, the abhorrent practice of grave robbing. Is it out of focus or my camera's weird? Could be both, honestly. I cannot reveal the details of our shocking expeditions, or catalog even partially the worst of the trophies adorning the nameless museum we prepared in the great stone house where we jointly dwelt, alone and servantless. Our museum was a blasphemous, unthinkable place. Here's my cat now, Houdini! What are you doing? Hey, bud? Hey, Houdini. Ah! Our museum is a blasphemous, unthinkable place, where, with the satanic taste of neurotic virtuosity, we had assembled a universe of terror and decay to excite our jaded sensibilities. It was a secret room, far, far underground, where huge winged demons, carven of basalt and onyx, vomited from wide grinning mouths, weird green and orange light, and hidden pneumatic pipes crumpled into kaleidoscope dances of death. The lines of red charnel things, hand in hand, woven in voluminous black hangings. Through these pipes came at will the odors of our moods most craved, sometimes the scent of pale funeral lilies, and sometimes the narcotic incense of imagined eastern shrines of the kingly dead, sometimes, I should call it, the frightful soul-appealing stench of the uncovered grave. Around the walls of this repellent chamber are cases of antique mummies alternating with comely, lifelike bodies perfectly stuffed and cured by the taxidermist's art, who have headstones snatched from the oldest churchyards of the world. Niches here and there contain skulls of all shapes, heads preserved in various states of dissolution. There one might find the rotting bald pates of famous noblemen, and the fresh and radiantly golden heads of new buried children. Statues and paintings were there, all of fiendish subjects, and some executed by St. John and myself. A locked portfolio, bound in tanned human skin, held certain unknown and unnameable drawings which it was rumored Goya had perpetrated but dared not acknowledge. There were nauseous musical instruments, stringed, brass, and woodwind, on which St. John and I sometimes produced dissonances of exquisite morbidity and cacodemoniacal gaslings. There we go. Whilst in a multitude of inlaid ebony cabinets reposed the most incredible and unimaginable variety of tomb loot ever assembled by human madness and perversity. It is of this loot in particular that I must not speak. Thank God I had the courage to destroy it long before I thought of destroying myself. The predatory excursions on which we collected our unmentionable treasures were always artistically memorable events. We were no vulgar ghouls, but worked only under certain conditions of mood, landscape, environment, weather, season, and movement. That's a lot of conditions. These pastimes were to us the most exquisite form of aesthetic of expression, and we gave their details a fastidious technical care. An inappropriate hour, a jarring lighting effect, or clumsy manipulation of damp sod would almost totally destroy for us that ecstatic titillation which followed the exhumation of some ominous cunning secrets of the earth. Our quest for novel scenes, piquant conditions, was feverish and insatiate. St. John was always the leader, and he it was who led the way at last to that mocking, that accursed spot which brought us our hideous and ineffable doom. God, these guys were weird. By what malign fatality were we lured into that terrible Holland churchyard? I think it was the dark rumor and legendary. The tales of one buried for 5 centuries, who had himself been a ghoul in his time, and had stolen a potent thing from a mighty sepulchre. Houdini, what are you doing? What are you doing? I can recall the scene in these final moments. Pale autumnal moon over the graves, casting long, horrible shadows. The grotesque trees drooping sullenly to meet the neglected grass, and crumbling slabs. The vast legions of strangely colossal bats that flew against the moon. Antique ivied church pointing a huge spectral finger at the livid sky. The phosphorescent insects that danced like death fires under the yews in a distant corner. The odors of mold, vegetation, and less explicable things that mingled feebly with the night wind from over far swamps and seas. And worst of all, the faint, deep-toned baying of some gigantic hound, which we could neither see nor definitely place. As we heard the suggestion of baying, we shuddered, remembering the tale of the peasant tree, for he whom we sought had centuries before been found in this self-same spot, torn and mangled by the claws and teeth of some unspeakable beast. Houdini, would you calm down? Would you calm down? No? You hate me? Alright. I remembered how we delved into the school's grave with our spades, and how we thrilled at the picture of ourselves, the grave, the pale watching moon, the horrible shadows of the grotesque trees, the titanic bats in the antique church, the dancing death fires, the screaming odors, gentle moaning night wind, the strange, half-heard, directionless bank, of whose objective existence we could scarcely be sure. Then, we struck a substance harder than the damp mold, and beheld a rotting oblong box crusted with mineral deposits from the long undisturbed ground. It was incredibly tough and thick, but so old that we finally pried it open and feasted our eyes on what it held. Calm down. Yeah, that doesn't mean attack me. Much, amazingly much, was left of the object, despite the lapse of 500 years. The skeleton, though crushed in places by the jaws of the thing that had killed it, held together with surprising firmness. It gloated over the clean white skull and its long, firm teeth, its eyeless sockets that once had glowed with a cardinal fever like our own. And the coffin lay in amulets of curious and exotic design, which had apparently been worn around the sleeper's neck. It was the oddly conventionalized figure of a crouching winged hound, or sphinx with a semi-canine face, and was exquisitely carved in antique oriental fashion from a small piece of green jade. The expression on its features was repellent in the extreme, savoring at once of death, bestiality, and malevolence. Around the base was an inscription in characters which neither St. John nor I could identify, and on the bottom, like a maker's seal, was graved a grotesque and formidable skull. Houdini, would you please calm down? Okay, there's not much left for this. Yeah, we can probably make this a 20-minute video. Alright. I'm gonna take a drink first. Sorry. Immediately upon beholding this amulet, we knew that we must possess it. We knew that we must possess it again. That this treasure alone was our logical pelf from the centuried grave. Even had its outlines been unfamiliar, we would have desired it. But as we looked more closely, we saw that it was not wholly unfamiliar. Alien it indeed was to all art and literature, which sane and balanced readers know. We recognized it as the thing hinted in the forbidden Necronomicon of the mad Arab Abdullah Hazred, the ghastly soul symbol of the corpse-eating cult of insatiable, inaccessible Lang in Central Asia. All too well did we trace the sinister lineaments described by the old Arab demonologist. Lineaments, he wrote, drawn from some obscure supernatural manifestation of the souls of those who vexed and gnawed at the dead. Seizing the green jade object, we gave a last glance at the bleached and carven-eyed face of its owner and closed up the grave as we found it. As we hastened from that abhorrent spot, the stolen amulet in St. John's pocket, we thought we saw the bats descend in a body to the earth we had so lately rifled, as if seeking for some cursed and unholy nourishment. The autumn moon shone weak and pale, and we could not be sure. So too, as we sailed the next day away from Holland to our home, we thought we heard the faintest bang of some gigantic cannon in the background. The autumn wind moaned sad and bland. We could not be sure. Are you done? Good evening. Chapter 2. There's not much more left. Less than a week after our return to England, strange things began to happen. We lived as recluses, devoid of friends, alone, and without servants in a few rooms of an ancient manor house on a bleak and unfrequented moor. This sounds a lot like me, except not in a manor. So that our doors were seldom disturbed by the knock of the visitor. Now, however, we were troubled by what seemed to be frequent fumblings in the night, not only around the doors but around the windows also, upper as well as lower. Once we'd fancied that a large opaque body darkened the library window when the moon was shining against it. Another time we thought we heard a whirring or flapping sound not far off. On each occasion, investigation revealed nothing, and we began to ascribe the occurrences to imagination alone. That same curiously disturbed imagination which still prolonged in our ears the faint far bang we thought we had heard in the hall in the churchyard. The jade amulet now reposed in a niche in our museum, and sometimes we burned strangely scented candles before it. We read much in Althazred's Necronomicon about its properties, and about the relation of ghouls' souls to the objects it symbolized. We were disturbed by what we read. Then terror came. On the night of September 24th, 19 blank, I heard a knock on my chamber door. Fancying it St. John's, I bade the knocker enter, who was answered only by a shrill laugh. There was no one in the corridor. When I aroused St. John from his sleep, he professed entire ignorance of the event, and became as worried as I. It was that night that the faint, distant bang over the moor became to us a certain and dreaded reality. 4 days later, whilst we were both in the hidden museum, there came a low, cautious scratching at the single door which led to the secret library staircase. Our alarm was now divided, for besides our fear of the unknown, we had always entertained a dread that our grisly collection might be discovered. Extinguishing all lights, we proceeded to the door and threw it suddenly open, whereupon we felt an unaccountable rush of air, and heard, as if receding far away, a queer combination of rustling, tittering, and articulate chatter. Whether we were mad, dreaming, or in our senses, we did not try to determine. We only realized with the blackest of apprehensions that the apparently disembodied chatter was beyond a doubt in the Dutch language. After that, we lived in growing horror and fascination. Mostly we held to the theory that we were jointly going mad from our life of unnatural excitements, but sometimes it pleased us more to dramatize ourselves as the victims of some creeping and appalling doom, as our manifestations were now too frequent to count. Our lonely house was seemingly alive with the presence of some malign being whose nature we could not guess. And every night, that demonic bang rolled over the windswept moor, always louder and louder. On October 29th, we found in the soft earth underneath the library window a series of footprints utterly impossible to describe. They were as baffling as the hordes of great bats which haunted the old manor house in unprecedented and increasing numbers. The horror reached a culmination on November 18th, when St. John, walking home after dark from the distant railroad station, was seized by some frightful carnivorous thing and torn to ribbons. His screams had reached the house, and I had hastened to the terrible scene in time to hear a whir of wings and see a vague black cloudy thing silhouetted against the rising moon. My friend was dying when I spoke to him, and he could not answer coherently. All I could do was to whisper, "The amulet! That thing!" Then he collapsed, in an inert mass of mangled flesh. "That's not a nice way to talk about your friend." I buried him the next midnight in one of our neglected gardens, and mumbled over his body one of the devilish rituals he had loved in life. And as I pronounced the last demonic sentence, I heard afar on the moor the faint bang of some gigantic hound. The moon was up, but I dared not look at it. I saw in the dim-lit moor a wide and nebulous shadow sweeping from mound to mound. I shut my eyes and threw myself face down upon the ground. When I arose trembling, I know not how much later, I staggered into the house and made shocking obeisances before the enshrined amulet of green jade. Being now afraid to live alone in the ancient house no more, I departed on the following day for London, taking with me the amulet after destroying by fire and burial the rest of the impious collection in the museum. But after 3 nights I heard the bang again, and before a week was over felt strange eyes upon me whenever it was dark. One evening as I strolled on Victoria Embankment for some needed air, I saw a black shape obscure one of the reflections of the lamps in the water. A wind stronger than the night wind rushed by, and I knew that what had befallen St. John must soon befall me. The next day I carefully wrapped the green jade amulet and sailed for Holland. What mercy I might gain by returning the thing to its silent sleeping owner I knew not, but I felt that I must at least try any step conceivably logical. What the hound was, and why it pursued me, were questions still vague, but I had first heard the bang in that ancient churchyard, and every subsequent event, including St. John's dying whisper, had served to connect hers with the stealing of the amulet. Accordingly, I sank into the nethermost abysses of despair when, at an inn in Rotterdam, I discovered that thieves had disposed me of the sole means of salvation. The bang was loud that evening. In the morning, I read of a nameless deed in the vilest quarter of the city. The rabble were in terror, for upon an evil tenement had fallen a red death beyond the foulest previous crime of the neighborhood. In the squalid thieves' den, an entire family had been torn to shreds by an unknown thing which left no trace, and those around had heard all night above the usual clamor of drunken voices a faint, deep, instant note, as of a gigantic hound. This dog doesn't like people. So at last I stood again in that unwholesome churchyard, where a pale winter moon cast hideous shadows, and leafless trees drooped sullenly to meet the withered, frosty grass and cracking slabs, and the ivied church pointed a jeering finger at the unfriendly sky, and the night wind howled maniacally from over-frozen swamps and frigid seas. The bang was very faint now, and it ceased altogether as I approached the ancient grave I had once violated, and frightened away an abnormally large horde of bats which had been hovering curiously around it. I know not why I went thither unless to pray, or give her out insane pleas and apologies to the calm white thing that lay within. But whatever my reason, I attacked the half-frozen sod with a desperation partly mine and partly that of a dominating will outside myself. Excavation was much easier than I expected, though at one point I encountered a queer interruption, when a lean vulture darted down out of the cold sky and pecked frantically at the grave earth until I killed him with a blow of my spade. That seems harsh. Finally, I reached the rotting oblong box and removed the damp nitrous cover. This is the last rational act I have performed. Crouched from the centuried coffin, embraced by a close-packed nightmare retinue of huge, sinewy sleeping bats, was the bony thing my friends and I had robbed. Not clean and placed as we had seen it, but covered with caked blood and shreds of alien flesh and hair, leering sentiently at me with phosphorus sockets and sharp, insanguine fangs, yawning twistedly in mockery of my inevitable doom. And when it gave from those grinning jaws a deep, sardonic bay, as of some gigantic hound, I saw that it held in its gory, filthy claws the lost and fateful amulet of green jade, and merely screamed and ran away idiotically, my screams soon devolving into peals of hysterical laughter. Madness, whereas the star wind, claws and teeth sharpened a century of corpses, gripping death astride a bacchanal of bats from the night black ruins of buried temples of Belial. Now, as the bang of that dead, fleshless monstrosity grows louder and louder, and the stealthy whirring and flapping of those accursed web wings circled closer and closer, I shall seek with my revolver the oblivion, which is my only refuge, the unnamed and unknown. And that's the end of the story. That was, freakier than I thought. I did not expect that. I thought it was just going to be about some fun pups. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this new format of doing some minor things. I dyed my hair a different color. Probably can't see it because this camera sucks, but it's pink now, so that's exciting. I also got this cool bracelet of Smurf skulls, so that's fun. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you want to, and you want to see more of this thing. What should you call my face? And comment what you want to see next. I don't really know. I'm taking any suggestions. I have no idea what to make. So yeah, see ya.